You know how sometimes you can just feel when someone doesn't like you? Not the fake smile, mildly annoyed kind of dislike. I mean, a full body chill. A silence when you walk in the room. A glance that lingers a second too long on your chipped nail polish, or the way you fumble your words. That kind of dislike. The kind you feel under your skin, in your teeth. That's how it always felt with Marla, my fiancé's mother. The first time I met her, she hugged me with one arm, the other still holding her phone, mid-text. She smiled too wide. Her teeth were perfect, small and square like white chiclets. And she wore this strong lavender perfume that didn't match the sharpness in her voice. "Trevor's told me so much about you," she said. And somehow I knew, instantly, that she meant only the bad things. But I smiled. I laughed. I made small talk over wine that she said was probably not your type. And a dinner she insisted was gluten-free, even though I'm not celiac, just sensitive. I did everything right. I complimented her home, her art, the way she cut cucumbers. I offered to help with dishes. I wore neutral tones and brought wine from a vineyard she mentioned once on Instagram. But she never saw me. Or maybe she saw right through me. And I wish I could say it didn't matter. I wish I could say Trevor had my back, that love was enough, that I didn't notice the quiet ways she chipped at me. Questions phrased as advice, gifts that felt like jabs, comments about first wives and starter marriages when I was in the room. But I did notice, and I stayed quiet until the wedding dress came. The box arrived on a Wednesday. I remember because I had just come home from therapy, my cheeks still pink from crying about something unrelated. My job, I think. I was balancing an oat milk latte in one hand, keys in the other, when I saw it on the doorstep. A big white box, ribboned in pale blue. No note on the outside. I thought maybe it was something I'd ordered late at night. A mood purchase. A bridesmaid dress, maybe. But when I opened it, standing barefoot on the tile, Starbucks sweating in my hand, my stomach dropped. Inside was a wedding dress. Not the dress I picked. Not even close. This one was plain, boxy. A high neckline, thick satin, long sleeves like something you'd wear in a conservative church. It had tags still attached and, nestled between the fabric folds, a thin envelope with my name on it. Evelyn. Handwritten. Her handwriting. And under that, a return label. It took me a solid minute to sit down. I dropped onto the couch with the box beside me, heart pounding like I'd been caught doing something wrong. My fingers shook as I opened the envelope. Inside, there was no card, no congratulations, no, just thought you'd like this. Just a small slip of paper with this. Some styles are timeless. Thought you might reconsider. Marla. Reconsider? Reconsider what, exactly? My dress? My taste? My engagement? Trevor wasn't home. He was at a client dinner. I stared at the dress. A size too small, I realized, noting the tag, and tried to breathe. I took a picture. Several, actually. One wide shot of the box. One close-up of the tag. One of the note. And I texted Trevor. Me. Your mom sent me a wedding dress. Me. It's not a gift. Me. It came with a return label. No reply. A few minutes later, I sent the photo. Still nothing. We had been engaged for 4 months. The proposal was sweet, if a little cliché. Rooftop dinner, fairy lights, a photographer hidden in the corner. He got down on one knee. I said yes, and part of me had hesitated. Not because I didn't love him. I did. I do. But because somewhere, deep down, I knew we weren't on the same team. Trevor loved me in the way some men love a favorite restaurant. Consistent, comfortable, convenient. But he rarely fought for me. And when it came to his mom, he always defaulted to diplomacy. She means well. She just wants the best for me. She's old-fashioned. But I wasn't sure old-fashioned covered the way she once referred to me as that girl at a fundraiser, in front of a donor, or how she asked if my parents were still together in a tone that made divorced sound like diseased. Still, I tried. I gave her space. I smiled through brunches and holidays and side-eye glances. I wore the bracelet she gave me for Christmas even though it left a green stain on my wrist. But this felt intentional. Not just passive-aggressive. Aggressive-aggressive. When Trevor finally got home, 3 hours later, he walked in with his tie loosened and a beer in his hand. I had the box still out on the kitchen table. He saw it, blinked. Is that? She mailed me a wedding dress, Trevor. He sighed, set the beer down. Babe, come on. It's not that serious. Not that serious? I laughed dryly. She sent a different dress, with a note, and a return label. Maybe she thought you were still shopping. I bought my dress 3 weeks ago. She knows that. He rubbed his temple. Okay, it's weird. I'll talk to her. When? I pressed. I don't know. Tomorrow. I looked at him for a long moment, waiting for something. Anger, frustration, defense, loyalty. But all I got was avoidance. He looked tired, and I felt alone. That night, I couldn't sleep. I laid in bed scrolling through our wedding planning spreadsheet, watching the blinking cursor over the confirmed guest list tab. Marla's name stared back at me. I opened Instagram. Her stories were up. Clips from her garden club, a reposted quote about keeping standards high, a blurry photo of her dog, Cosmo. I clicked on her profile. Scrolled. 2 days ago, she'd posted a throwback. Trevor in high school, arms slung over his prom date. A blonde girl named Lexi. Her caption? Trevor's first true love. Some things never change. #TBE had meant to be. I stared at it for a long time. Lexi still liked her photos, still commented hearts. And suddenly, I wasn't just angry. I was humiliated. The next morning, I called my mom. She's not dramatic, my mother. Not the meddling type. But when I told her, she went quiet for a few seconds. Then, do you want to marry into that? And that was the first time I actually paused. Because I didn't know. I loved Trevor, but I didn't love how I felt around him lately. Like I was always adjusting, always compensating, always trying not to stir the water. Was that just wedding stress? Or was that my intuition whispering, something isn't right? I didn't know. But I did know this. I wasn't going to wear a dress someone else picked for me. And I sure as hell wasn't going to stay quiet just to keep the peace. So I made a plan. That weekend, I invited Marla to brunch. Neutral territory. Cute cafe. Daylight. She showed up 5 minutes late in oversized sunglasses and a scarf that probably cost more than my rent. I smiled. She didn't. We ordered. She got an egg white omelet, no cheese. So, I said as the waitress walked away. I got your package. She didn't blink. Oh? The dress. Oh yes, she said, sipping her water. I just thought it might suit you better. Yours was a bit revealing. I held her gaze. And the return label? I figured you'd appreciate the convenience. I exhaled slowly. It felt like a message. She shrugged. If the shoe fits. I smiled tightly. It doesn't. And neither does that dress. Her lips twitched. Shame. I leaned in slightly. Marla, why don't you want this wedding to happen? She blinked. I never said that. You didn't have to. Silence. Then. You're not who I pictured for Trevor. I nodded. I know. She looked at me. And I think that scares you. That did it. Her jaw clenched. Her tone cooled. You're clever. I'll give you that. I don't need clever. I need respect. She stood then, slow and deliberate, dropped cash on the table. I'll see you at the wedding, she said, not looking back. And I wasn't sure if it was a promise or a threat, but something had shifted. Because now I wasn't wondering if she liked me. Now I was wondering if he ever truly defended me. And what I found next answered that question in full. After brunch with Marla, I told Trevor everything. Not just about the dress or the note, but what she'd said to my face. That I wasn't who she pictured for him. That she thought I needed to reconsider. That she didn't see me as part of the family, no matter how many lemon bars I baked for her book club or how many birthday gifts I mailed with handwritten cards. Trevor rubbed his temples the whole time I spoke. His expression flickered between frustration and exhaustion, like I was giving him a chore. A mess, to clean up before Monday. Then he said, "She didn't mean it like that." And something inside me snapped. "I'm telling you exactly what she said," I replied. Word for word. Maybe she just wants you to be more traditional. She grew up differently. This isn't about tradition, Trevor. This is about respect. He got quiet. I sat back, heart racing. And then I asked him the question I had never dared before. Do you want to marry me? Or are you just trying to keep everything calm? His eyes flicked to the side. What does that mean? I mean, sometimes I feel like you're more committed to keeping your mom happy than to having my back. He didn't answer. Not really. Just walked into the kitchen and started loading the dishwasher like we hadn't been talking about the future of our marriage. I watched the back of his head as he rinsed a spoon. That silence? It said more than anything else. The next morning, I got a DM from Lexi. Yes, that Lexi. The prom date. The one from Marla's nostalgic Instagram post. I didn't even follow her. But apparently, she followed me. She'd liked a few of our engagement photos months ago. Her message was short. Hey, I know this is random, but can I ask you something about Trevor? My stomach dropped. I didn't answer right away. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the keyboard. Then I typed, Sure, what's up? She replied almost instantly. Have you been with him since October? We got engaged in June. Been together 3 years. Then the typing bubble appeared again, and stayed there. Until he was messaging me in December. Sent me a picture of your cat and said it was his roommate's. I didn't know you guys were engaged. I blinked. She sent screenshots. A blurry image of my cat, Luna, curled up in the sun on the windowsill. A message bubble. She always naps here when my roommate's out. Guess she likes my company better. Below that, her reply, heart emoji. Another photo. A mirror selfie. Trevor at the gym. Another message. Can't believe how long it's been. You ever wonder what would have happened if we'd stayed together? I felt my body go cold. The timestamp? December 17th. Exactly 2 days after our save the date cards went out. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. My heart was pounding. My lips numb. I kept rereading the same thread, hoping I'd misread the dates, the tone, the intent. But I hadn't. It was all there. Flirting, photos, nostalgia. And the one that really got me? Sometimes I think you were the one that got away. He sent that 2 days after we'd toured our wedding venue. I didn't reply to Lexi right away. Instead, I walked into the living room and sat on the couch. My cat jumped into my lap like she knew I needed her. I texted Trevor. Me. We need to talk tonight. Don't make plans. No reply. An hour later, I heard the garage door. He walked in with a 6-pack of beer and Thai takeout, like it was any other Friday. I didn't speak. I just held out my phone. Opened to the screenshot. He read it. Blinked. Exhaled through his nose. Then, she messaged me first. That's what you're going with? It wasn't like that. It was just chatting. Catching up. Then why lie about the cat? He ran his hand through his hair. I didn't think it mattered. I stood up. You were engaged. To me. And you were talking to your ex like you were still single. She was just being friendly. You told her she was the one who got away. He swallowed hard. I waited. But again, he said nothing. No apology, no remorse, just silence. And for the first time since we got engaged, I realized I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt free. I didn't cancel the wedding that night. I didn't even scream. Instead, I went upstairs, opened our wedding planner app, and moved every vendor contract into a new folder titled Pause, Maybe Never. Then I opened a blank Google Doc and started typing a list. Return dress to boutique. Refunds from florist. Talk to mom about guest list. Break lease or keep apartment. I didn't cry. I just made a plan. The next day, I met my friend Casey for coffee. I told her everything. The dress, the DM, the screenshots, the way Trevor didn't react. She blinked at me across her oat milk latte. Girl, that's not just a red flag. That's a 6-piece crimson curtain set from hell. I laughed for the first time in days. She leaned in. What are you going to do? And I realized I didn't know. Not really. Because there was still a part of me. The part that planned this wedding. That said yes on a rooftop. That bought candles to match our invitations. That wanted this to work. But the other part? The part that watched him dismiss my feelings. Flirt behind my back. Let his mother send me a wedding dress I didn't ask for. That part was done. A few days later, I packed a bag and drove to my parents' house. When Trevor came home that night to find me gone, he sent a single text. Where are you? Then a second. Are you seriously doing this? I didn't reply. Not that night, not the next morning. The silence felt good, powerful. Until he sent the third text. If you walk away now, I'm not coming after you. And I swear to God, I laughed out loud. Because that's exactly what I'd been waiting for. Confirmation. He didn't love me. He loved the idea of me. The convenience. The symmetry of our life. The way I kept things smooth with his mom. The way I handled every RSVP. Every call to the caterer. Every apology he didn't feel like making. He wasn't going to fight for me. So I stopped fighting for us. I didn't return the wedding dress Marla sent. I mailed it back to her. No return label. Just a sticky note. Some things never fit. And that's when the real fallout started. Because I hadn't told her yet, or Trevor, that the wedding was off. And the way I did it? It wasn't quiet. The morning after I mailed the dress, I posted a photo on Instagram. Just a white box. Unwrapped. Caption. Not every dress is meant to be worn. Not every promise is meant to be kept. No tags. No names. But people knew. The comments rolled in. Friends, cousins, a few coworkers. And then, Marla. She commented. Just one line. Some people can't handle tradition. And I lost it. Because there it was. In public. Her trying to twist it. To make it about me being too modern, too loud, too sensitive. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I posted the note. Her handwritten note. And the return label. And the screenshots from Lexi. I blurred names. I didn't make it a war, but I made it clear. And that post? It exploded. When I say the post exploded, I don't mean it went viral in the influencer way. I mean it blew up my life. My phone didn't stop buzzing for hours. DMs, calls, missed FaceTime requests. Not just from friends, but from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Old coworkers, high school classmates, mutuals from Trevor's world who now weren't so mutual. Some were supportive. Proud of you for speaking up. Takes courage to walk away. That woman always gave me bad vibes. Others weren't. Isn't this kind of airing dirty laundry? Did you really need to post the screenshots? Thought you were stronger than that? But I didn't care. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't tiptoeing. I wasn't managing other people's comfort. I was telling the truth. And Marla? She responded exactly how I thought she would. Not with humility, not with regret, but with lawyers. That afternoon, I got an email from a man named Richard K. Delaney, Esquire. Subject: urgent matter, personal defamation and wedding dispute. I thought it was a joke, until I opened it and read, Dear Ms. Davenport, I am writing on behalf of Ms. Marla Whitmore regarding your recent social media postings, which contain defamatory implications and the unauthorized publication of her private correspondence. The letter was 3 pages long, most of it full of vague legal threats. No actual lawsuit, just noise. But the tone was clear. Take it down, or they'd pursue formal remedies. I stared at the screen for a long time, heart thudding. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I called my ex-roommate Danielle. Why? Because she's a lawyer, a very good one. And even though we hadn't spoken much since she moved to Denver, I knew she'd shoot me straight. First of all, she said, after reading the email, this is BS. I exhaled. Second of all, what kind of psycho mom hires a lawyer because you exposed her for being petty? I laughed, tension, finally breaking. She's trying to scare you. Classic boomer manipulation tactic. You didn't name her. You blurred identifying details. It's not defamation unless you lie. And you didn't. She paused. Do not take that post down. And I didn't. Trevor, on the other hand, wasn't as calm. He called me at 10:14 p.m. that night. 3 times in a row. When I didn't pick up, he left a voicemail. Ev, what are you doing? This is getting out of hand. My mom's freaking out. You made us look insane. People are texting me like I cheated or something. Call me back. I didn't. Instead, I opened a bottle of Pinot Noir, crawled into my childhood bed, and watched Bridesmaids with my cat curled under the covers. And for the first time since the engagement, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. But Trevor didn't go quietly. He texted again the next morning. Can we talk like adults? I still love you. We can fix this. My mom was out of line, sure, but don't burn it all down over a dress. That last part? That's when I stopped reading. Because it was never just about the dress. It was about the years of quiet undermining. The moments I brushed off because I wanted to be the cool fiancé. The way Trevor let me handle all the emotional labor, the invitations, the family drama, the budget, the apologies. And now that I'd set a boundary, now he cared? Please. By Monday, things had gotten bigger. A local wedding blogger picked up the story, not naming names, just referencing a viral post from a bride who canceled her wedding after receiving a wedding dress from her future MIL with a return label. The headline? When motherly advice goes too far, why this bride walked away. I wasn't tagged, but people knew. And that's when I started getting other messages. From women I didn't know. Strangers. One from a woman named Gina. Just saw the repost. Had to reach out. My ex's mom once mailed me a ring, just in case I changed my mind about the one he picked. You're not alone. Another. Thank you for posting your story. I'm getting married in 2 months and just realized I've been bending over backwards for a man who won't even call his mom out. Another. My MIL once emailed my wedding photographer and asked them to edit me thinner. I wish I'd walked away like you did. I sat in bed scrolling through the messages, tears in my eyes. Not from sadness, but from relief. Because this thing I thought would make me a pariah had actually made me seen. And not just seen, heard. 3 days later, Trevor showed up at my parents' door. I was in leggings, no makeup, mug of tea in my hand. It was rainy. I remember that. My mom answered, called up the stairs. Evelyn, he's here. I froze, then slowly made my way down. He was standing there in a hoodie, damp from the rain, hands in his pockets. Can we talk? He said. I stepped outside onto the porch. We stood in silence for a minute. The rain tapped the wooden planks beneath us. Finally, he spoke. I'm sorry. I didn't say anything. I should have said it sooner. About the texts. About my mom. About everything. Still, I stayed quiet. I was scared, he admitted. Scared to confront her. Scared to rock the boat. I nodded. And now? He looked up at me. Now I realized the boat was already sinking. That made me pause. He took a breath. I love you, Evelyn. I want to marry you. Not for my mom, not for the photos, for us. But if you don't want that anymore, I get it. I looked at him, really looked at him. For a second, I saw the boy I met 3 years ago. The one who remembered my latte order and made playlists for road trips. And then I saw the man who'd stayed silent while his mother chipped at my self-worth. I sighed. I believe you love me, I said. But I don't think you respect me the way I need to be respected. His face crumpled, just slightly. I'm tired, Trevor. Tired of shrinking. Tired of making peace with things that hurt. He nodded, wiped his nose. I'll always care about you, I said. But this wedding? I stepped back. It's off. And this time, I meant it. 2 days later, I took off my ring. Not in some grand, symbolic moment. Just standing in front of the mirror, brushing my teeth. I looked down at my hand and realized it didn't feel like mine anymore. I slipped it off, set it in a small velvet box, tucked it into my nightstand, and that was that. But the best part? What happened next? Because 2 weeks later, I got another DM from someone named Emily. Hi, Evelyn. I just read your post and had to say thank you. I called off my wedding this week. My fiancé's mom has been bullying me for years and he always said I was too sensitive. Your story gave me the clarity I needed. I'm terrified, but I'm also free. That one made me cry, because I realized something. This wasn't just about me. It was about all of us. The women who keep quiet to keep the peace. Who apologize when they've done nothing wrong. Who shrink themselves for love that only goes halfway. It was about every return label we've ever received, literal or not, that told us we didn't fit. And every time we believed it. So no, I didn't get married in June. I didn't walk down the aisle or pose for engagement photos or dance to our song under fairy lights. But I did choose myself. I walked away. And in doing that, I found a version of me I'd almost forgotten. The one who knows her worth. The one who doesn't need a ring to feel whole. The one who's done returning to people who never intended to stay. The following month was quiet in the way fresh snow is quiet. Everything looked soft on the surface. The wedding had been called off, Trevor was gone. The RSVPs void. The venue refund issued. But underneath it all, there was still this crackling hum, like the whole world was waiting to see what I'd do next. People stopped asking about the wedding. at least to my face. But I could feel the questions living in the way my aunt hesitated on family calls, in the lingering pause before coworkers asked how my weekend was. I didn't fill the silence. I let it live. Some things don't need to be explained. They just need to be done. And truthfully, I had nothing left to prove. The dress was back at the boutique. The ring was in my drawer. And my phone? It had finally stopped buzzing. No more texts from Trevor. No more Instagram comments from his friends trying to decipher what really happened. Still, every now and then I'd get a ping. A new follower. A DM. Women who'd seen the post. Who'd heard about the dress. Who wanted to share their stories. Of overbearing in-laws, boundary-breaking partners, canceled weddings they were still mourning. Each story was different, but every single one had the same theme. They stayed quiet too long. One of the messages stuck with me for days. From a woman named Jordan, late 30s, 2 kids, divorced. She wrote, "I should have walked away before the wedding. My MIL criticized my weight during fittings. Told me I looked bride-ish instead of beautiful. My ex never said a word. I married him anyway. We divorced 6 years later. I don't regret the marriage, but I do regret silencing myself to keep the peace." I read that line over and over. Silencing myself to keep the peace. God, I knew that feeling. I'd lived inside that feeling for years. And suddenly, I realized, maybe I wasn't just healing from a broken engagement. Maybe I was healing from years of making myself smaller just to be loved. By mid-April, I moved back into my old apartment. Not the one Trevor and I had shared. That lease had been terminated. Something I handled over email, with my name removed from the documents like I'd never lived there at all. I found a small 1-bedroom in the same neighborhood where I'd lived before Trevor, walking distance from the wine bar I liked, with a corner nook where the sun hit perfectly in the mornings. It wasn't fancy. The floors creaked. The faucet dripped. But it was mine. The first night I spent there, I laid on the mattress with no frame, cat curled against my side, and just listened to the silence. No gurgling espresso machine in the kitchen. No partner pacing while on client calls. No future mother-in-law's voice in my head, suggesting I reconsider my shoes, my dress, my entire life. Just me. A woman alone. And for the first time in a long time, that didn't feel like failure. It felt like freedom. Still, the world had questions. At work, my boss pulled me aside one afternoon. "I heard things changed with the wedding?" I nodded. "They did." She paused. "I hope that was your choice." "It was," I said. "Eventually." She smiled. "Good. It's always harder when people assume they know your story." She was right. Because the assumptions were everywhere. That Trevor had cheated, that I'd gotten cold feet, that I was too sensitive, or too modern, or too bold for a traditional family. But the truth was simple. I wanted a marriage, not a performance. And when the love I had didn't come with safety, respect, and support, I walked away. Not because I stopped loving him, but because I finally started loving myself more. Then came the email from Marla. Yes, her. It arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, subject line blank. Just her name in the sender field. I hovered before clicking. My pulse kicked. Inside it said, "Evelyn, I hope you're well. I wanted you to know that despite everything, I do wish you happiness. For what it's worth, I believe you taught Trevor something important. Sincerely, Marla." That was it. No apology, no acknowledgement of the dress, the note, the years of quiet sabotage. But I wasn't expecting one. I read it once, then again, and then I hit delete. Not out of spite, but because I didn't need it. She wasn't in control anymore. The funny thing about grief, even grief over a relationship you chose to end, is that it comes in waves. Sometimes I'd be fine, browsing candles in Target, and then I'd see a wedding registry display and have to step into the bathroom just to breathe. Sometimes I missed the idea of Trevor. The way he tucked his hand behind my back at parties. The way he always ordered 2 kinds of takeout so I could have options. But then I'd remember the texts. The silence. The way he told me, "If you walk away now, I won't come after you." And that ache would fade. Because love isn't just warm hands and cozy nights. It's who shows up when things get hard. And when it got hard, he didn't. That spring, I started writing again. Just small pieces. Essays, little reflections, some I posted, some I didn't. But one night, I shared something on Medium, titled, The Return Label, Why I Walked Away from My Wedding. I didn't expect much, maybe a few likes, a kind comment or two. Instead, it blew up. Not millions of views viral, but enough to start conversations. Women shared it. Men commented. Therapists messaged asking if they could share it with clients. One woman emailed me directly. My daughter is 26, she's engaged, and she's afraid to call it off because she thinks she'll disappoint everyone. I sent her your essay. She cried. Then she canceled the caterer. I sobbed reading that. Because that's what healing looks like. Not just for me, but for someone else. That moment? That's when I realized this story wasn't mine alone anymore. It belonged to every woman who ever got handed a box full of expectations and was told to fit inside it. And who finally said, no thanks. Then came the podcast invite. A small but growing relationship show. Female hosted. Candid stories. One of the producers DM'd me. We loved your Medium post. Would you ever want to share your story on air? I said yes. The recording was nerve-wracking. I'd never told the whole thing out loud. The dress, the note, the Instagram post, the email with the lawyer, the DM from Lexi. But the host made me feel safe, heard. And when it aired, the floodgates opened. Listeners emailed. Other shows reached out. A therapist in Ohio told me she used my story to help a client walk away from her toxic in-laws. And Trevor? He reached out again, this time by email. Saw the podcast. I'm not angry. Just wanted you to know I've been listening. And I'm sorry for all of it. I wasn't ready to be the partner you needed. I hope you're okay. I didn't reply. Because I didn't need closure. I was the closure. By June, the month we were supposed to get married, I was in Mexico. Not hiding. Not mourning. Just living. A solo trip. Something I'd always wanted to do. I hiked. I swam in cenotes. I journaled by the ocean with sand in my hair and the sun on my face. And on what would have been my wedding day, I lit a candle on a beach and whispered a thank you. Not to Trevor, but to me. For leaving. For choosing peace. For breaking the cycle. For knowing that love without respect is just performance in disguise. And now I help others do the same. I started a newsletter. Return to Self. Weekly stories. Lessons. Real confessions from women reclaiming their voices after betrayal, gaslighting, or emotional neglect. It's small, intimate, but growing. And the messages I get? They tell me everything I need to know. That I made the right choice. That walking away wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning. I never planned to become a voice for other women. That wasn't the goal when I shared that first Instagram post. Just a box, a dress, a caption. I wasn't trying to start a movement. I wasn't trying to go viral. I was just a woman who had finally hit her limit. A woman who chose to speak her truth out loud, even if her voice cracked when she did it. But once you speak, once you tell the whole story without sanding down the hard edges, something changes. You realize how many people have been waiting for someone else to go first. The newsletter, Return to Self, started with 12 subscribers. Mostly friends. A few curious strangers. I wrote about boundaries, about silence, about what it feels like to grieve someone who's still alive, who walks the earth like nothing happened while you carry the weight of what did. Then I wrote about the time I apologized to a florist I never even met, because Trevor's mom had called her and changed our order without telling me. I found out when she emailed me the revised quote, assuming I'd been part of the discussion. I'd laughed it off then. Oh, you know how weddings go. But it wasn't funny. It was control, disguised as concern. I didn't see it clearly until months later. Until it was over. That's how so much of this works. You don't realize how far you've drifted until you finally stop swimming for someone else. By midsummer, the newsletter had thousands of subscribers. I started hosting Zoom circles on Sunday nights. Small virtual gatherings where women could join anonymously or not, cameras on or off. Just a space to share what they were carrying. One night, a woman named Priya talked about her mother-in-law entering her bedroom unannounced during her honeymoon. Not in a hotel, in the house they'd moved into post-wedding. She said she stood in the doorway holding a bowl of soup like it was normal. She said she just wanted to check on me, Priya told the group. But I was in a towel. My husband laughed and said, "She's just being sweet." And I believed him. For years. Another woman, older, mid-40s, shared that she hadn't worn her wedding ring in over a year, and her husband hadn't noticed. Another confessed that her fiancé's mother bought a dress for herself in white. It was surreal. All of these women, with different faces and names and backgrounds, and somehow exactly the same story. Silenced, diminished, second-guessed. It wasn't just about mothers-in-law. It was about a lifetime of being told to make peace instead of making waves. But something was shifting, and I was part of it. My therapist, Diane, who'd been with me since before the engagement, said something that stuck. Healing doesn't mean you'll never be triggered again. It means when you are, you'll know what to do about it. And that became a kind of North Star for me. I still flinched when I saw engagement photos in my feed. Still felt my stomach twist when I passed the venue we'd booked. The one with the big oak tree and the string lights we never got to see lit. But now I knew what to do with that feeling. I didn't spiral. I didn't call Trevor or text old friends to rehash everything. I just breathed. I let the grief come, and I let it pass. In September, I got invited to speak at a women's conference in Chicago. Not a TED Talk or anything huge, just a panel. Modern love, modern boundaries. I sat between a therapist who specialized in codependency and a relationship coach who'd built her practice helping women spot early red flags before they became deal breakers. My imposter syndrome screamed the whole time. Who am I to speak? I'm not a psychologist. I didn't finish my grad degree. I called off a wedding and wrote a few viral posts. That's it. But when I told my story, the dress, the note, the silence, the reveal, the whole room leaned forward. You could hear a pin drop. And when I finished, a woman in the back raised her hand. She didn't have a question. She just said, "Thank you for not marrying him anyway." And the whole room clapped. Not for me. For themselves. For every woman who ever almost gave her life away to someone who never really saw her. A few weeks after the conference, I got a package. No return address. Just a small white box, carefully wrapped. Inside was a candle. Lavender and sage. And a note. I never returned the dress. But I returned myself. Thank you. M. I didn't know who M was. But it didn't matter. She knew who she was again. And that's all that mattered. I still think about Trevor sometimes. Not with longing, not with bitterness, just curiosity. I wonder if he ever looks back and realizes how many little choices added up to the end. The way he deflected, dismissed, stayed silent when I needed him to speak. I don't hate him. I just don't miss the version of myself I had to be to stay with him. That woman deserved more. She was worth defending, worth believing, worth loving without conditions or return labels. And now, she's me again. The last time I spoke to him was New Year's Eve. He texted at 11:58 p.m. "I hope this year is kinder to you. You deserve that." I replied, "It already is." No bitterness, no door left open, just peace. That's the gift I gave myself. And if you're listening to this, if you're sitting in the same ache I once was, wondering whether to stay or go, whether to keep the dress or return it, let me say this. You already know. You've known for a while. And the answer doesn't live in a wedding album or a ring or your family's expectations. It lives in how you feel when you're alone. If that feeling is better than how you feel next to them, that's your sign. Go. You'll grieve. You'll doubt. You'll cry into your coffee and stare at other people's lives like they got it all right while you somehow messed everything up. But one day, maybe sooner than you think, you'll wake up in a sunlit apartment with creaky floors and a cat curled at your feet. And you'll smile at nothing, because you chose yourself, because you stopped performing and started living, because you remembered there was never anything wrong with you. You just outgrew a love that stopped growing with you, and you never looked back. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.